to try to persuade you guys on why people who have eating disorders have eating disorders. There are three types of factors why people might have eating disorders. There's biological factors, which can be like their hormones, they have irregular hormones. Psychological factors, which could be like they have negative body images or poor self-esteem. And environmental factors, which could be like their family or their job, or say they play a certain sport. I also kind of want to touch on how people who are really thin, or they're one of those type of people that do overeat excessively with that type of eating disorder, that just because you see them being like that doesn't mean you actually understand what they're going through. Because in my opinion, I think people who have eating disorders are kind of like people who have addiction. They don't really realize that they're harming their bodies. They just kind of like the high that they're getting out of it. So one of the things I want to talk about is the biological factors, the irregular hormones. Some people, sometimes they have certain glands that don't work very well, and that may cause them to be more skinnier or more heavier than usual because their metabolism isn't very well. And then genetics is another part of it. There's research right now going on that people or scientists are trying to figure out. They're looking at their brain images and seeing if those certain factors are what's causing them to develop these eating disorders. And also, maybe their parent or their grandma did suffer from an eating disorder. It goes back to them as well. And then some psychological factors, their negative body images. Their brains are thinking that, they may be bigger than what they really are. Or, they look a certain way when they really don't look that way. And then they're like low self-esteem. That kind of deals with, they have a fear of gaining weight, or they're afraid that they're going to lose control. And then they also get anxiety where, they're going to have a panic attack, or they're so mad at themselves for, eating an extra bite or losing control. They just don't like that. It just makes them freak out. And then some environmental factors are sports. Say you're like a ballerina, or you are a bodybuilder. You're gonna restrict your body of certain foods and nutrition. And so I also think people, their jobs are influencing them to do that, whether they think, oh, just because you look that certain way, that's what you should do, but they don't exactly know why they're telling them to do that, just because that's just what we think should be it. And then another environmental issue is childhood traumas. A lot of people who do have eating disorders, because maybe they were sexually assaulted when they were little, or they went through some type of trauma that they can't cope with it, so they look to, restricting their body and what they need. And I know people with addiction also, they're like that too. They